Thanks for staying with us. We now head to Abuja studio where Senator Sani is joining us there to bring us, his insight on some of the things that the president said. Senator, thank you so much for coming on the program, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And so I did tell the people before I introduced you that one of the things I would like you to speak to is the president's very confident. He's very confident with the 48 members of his cabinet. Because when they are telling him, don't you think it's time to prune this thing down, this number of people that you're working with, to reflect reality and also cut cost of governance, I guess? And no, I need them essentially to do this work. So I'm not cutting down on the number of ministers. But I know you also maybe want to comment on his insistence on keeping the removal of, on removing subsidy both for FX and for fuel. Senator.
Thank you for having me in your program. Well, first of all, the minister is a political appointee of Mr. President. If a minister succeeds, it's the president that succeeds. If the minister fails, it's the president that fails. So if the president now stick his neck and then stick his honor, integrity, and dignity and reputation before the conduct and stewardship of these ministers, it means that he is confident and he is ready to take whatever comes out of their own stewardship in office. So if a minister is not performing and the public can see it visibly and the president said he wants him, that is the president that will take the blame out of it. And it's important that we also understand, as a democratically elected president, it has always been one of the challenges of people when they find themselves in a position of power when they are elected into office at the executive level. There are people who are appointed ministers because of their records of competence and performance. There are people who are appointed ministers to stabilize a certain political equation from their states. And there are people who are appointed ministers because of their contribution in the campaign. So from an outsider's point of view, it is easy for you to look at the president and say, remove that and that. But there are people who, if he evicts out of his government, there are certainly going to be explosion from the state they come from, or the president will in one way or another lose his base. When you're elected into office, you don't just jump onto the throne. You pass through the rigors, the turbulence, the storms, the challenges of office. You navigated through landmines, and then you became what you are. So you certainly reward some persons. And as the government moves on, you also think of the implication of certain actions you're going to take. I watched the chat, and for him to say that he is confident and believe in his ministers, it means he's ready to take the blame, and then we should now stop blaming the ministers and then see them through him. And people should also not be complaining, and because he said he believes in them. But the issue of pruning down ministers comes as a result of the call in view and in cognizance of the economic challenges we face as a country and the need to cut down the cost of governance and also cut down the size of government. People are proposing that there should be reduction in the number of ministers. But if you look at it, if every state should have a minister, it's going to be 37. And then most of these ministers, some of them were nominated by other persons, and then there is zonal representation. And there are also some attempt to stabilize a certain issues from other places. So these are all problems that people face when they are in office. It starts from 1999 to date. It has always been an issue. But he has said a number of things. He spoke as a president who has believed that he has planted a seed and people should wait for it to germinate and enjoy the fruit of it. And to be very fair, since 1999, this is one president that is ready to lose his popularity and his support base while focusing on tomorrow for the country. If you look at it, it's not just the public that are not comfortable with these economic reforms. But if you look at the governors themselves, they don't like it when he went to court and got a judgment that gave local governments their autonomy. So he has not just hurt the people at the lower level, but even those at the upper echelon of society, those holding power who are very close to him. There are some certain decisions which he took, which are not they are not comfortable with him. So he has already spoke confidently that what he is doing is in the best interest of the country. He has spoken openly. He's not going to cut the size of government. He has said he's ready to discuss some amendments in the tax reform bill. He said he's not going to probe former military chiefs who mismanaged the economy. And he also spoke about security in northern part of Nigeria, which factually there are comparative improvement with what we have in the past. So he should be held responsible for the performance or otherwise of his government and not the ministers, as he has now made it very clear to every citizen.
I like the way you made that summation. It's as clear as crystal. He's made his position clear, so it's now all of us holding him to account to his words for every move he makes. He also made reference to issues around corruption, because people are talking about him fighting grand corruption perpetrated by the political class. And his response, which is what I want you to speak to, was, you can't eradicate corruption, you can minimize it. And he's saying, I'm doing it already. LG autonomy, wage increase for civil servants, and a couple of other things he mentioned, rather than some of the grand things they want him to do. In your assessment, is that aggressive enough to deter bad behavior, or people who pilfer or literally put their hands in the cookie jar?
Yeah. You see, when a new leader takes over office and he is being confronted with these huge socio-economic challenges, he has to balance his actions. One of which is that there are many things that happened before he came into office, which borders on the sabotage on the economy, corruption, and the obfuscation of the economy of the nation by the former elements of the former government. So if he now concentrates on probing the past administration, he will have little time for him to plant and establish his own legacy. So when you find yourself in this position, especially with a nation facing these critical issues like ours, you still have to go backwards and see how public funds that were looted can be recovered. And I think they have been doing that with what has happened in the CBN the last time. But when one of the panelists, Umar Farouk, questioned him about the looting, the mismanagement of security and defense forces under the Buhari administration, which he needs to probe, I think he made it clear that he is more interested in moving forward than moving backward. So it's a bit contradictory. You can move backwards in CBN, but you can't move backwards in security. So that is a bit contradictory. So, but I believe that what should have been is the fact that if he is being provided with evidence that shows that there are clear cases of corruption, he will move to recover public funds. That is what the answer is supposed to be. But if you say that whatever happened in the past has gone, it's more like rewarding opacity and larceny, and which he has done by saying he's not going to go backward. So to me, I think what is most important now is that he should be held responsible for what has happened under his government. He has economic reforms. He has started. There are a lot of pains and Nigerians are suffering. But it is a fact all over the world and in history, economic reforms have never been a popular thing with the citizens. It happened with Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, Sukarno in Indonesia, Mahathir Mohamad in Malaysia, and Brazil and Argentina has passed through all these things here. So people should hold him, since he has repeatedly said that this is in the best interest of Nigeria. Let us see. But he knew that if at the end of the day, the fruit of these reforms are not visible, are not being reaped, then he will be consigned like another leader.
All right, Senator.
But for the first time, we have a leader who is ready to take the heat for today in the interests of tomorrow.
Yeah, Senator, apparently everybody could see that he's quite brave with his decision. Whether they are right or wrong, he stands by what he says. And a lot of people have commended him for that. But there's one more thing I would like to speak to. I would like you to speak to before we wind down, which has to do with the issue of this tax reform and the argument around VAT. He had mentioned that no matter what you do, people will always argue. And he said he doesn't mind cutting edges. If you were to sit down with him and tell him a way forward as far as this reform and VAT element is concerned, as somebody from the core north, what will it be to navigate this part and get this bill passed?
Well, to me, there is so much politics in this bill than actually the content of those papers. There were 4 bills before the National Assembly. One of Nigerian tax bill, Nigerian tax administration bill, the joint tax board bill, and then the Nigerian Revenue Service bill. These are the 4 bills. But when you see the debate and discussions going on, people don't even know what the content of that bill is. Either some have already a political mindset, they are opposed to it, or certain that this is another opportunity to get at the president and the government, let's bring it down. But I will have loved, if anybody is going to discuss this bill, to discuss it based on its merits and demerits and backed by facts as far as the content and clauses of this bill is concerned. But that is not the issue. But as a president, Nigeria is a democracy. If you bring a bill before the National Assembly, the discourse, the debate, the conversation will not simply be by members of National Assembly. That's why we're a democracy. People express their opinion. But if you look at it generally, that bill is in the best interest of Nigerians. Most of the issues ascribed to that bill are completely false and misleading. But the point is that if there are contentious issues, as some are raising it, especially from my own part of the country, that can be tabled and then discussed. But I'm not happy when I see people elected as senators, they're running away from discussing it. Some are even afraid of expressing their opinion because of fear of mob. And I wonder how I can be in National Assembly without standing there and speaking truth to power as far as the issue is concerned. There are issues that are beneficial to Nigeria, to the economy of this country, to the common man. These are issues we should discuss. But it's been so colored and spiced in politics to the point that the ordinary man is told that this bill is against a part of the country and government is attempting to raise raise taxes. And when you see this kind of misinformation, you know it's leading to something. So to me, I believe that this bill should be passed, but the contentious aspect of it should be debated. And I had the president say he's ready to cut the edges and discuss it. And I think that is in the best interest of Nigeria. Let's discuss it. Bill is cannot be passed by diktat, cannot be passed by the president. It has to be debated and then discussed.
Senator, we must thank you so much. The luxury of time is what we really don't have. But we must thank you for coming through, Senator Sani, former member representing Kaduna Central in the Senate. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program. We appreciate it. And compliments of the season.
Thank you. Thank you.